You're listening to episode number 45, Minerals for Menopause. Welcome to Menopause Natural Solutions, your podcast for all things perimenopause and menopause related. Stay tuned as naturopath Jennifer Harrington explains how to use natural therapies to transform your health and happiness. Hi there. Today's topic, minerals for menopause, is a very important, it's an essential conversation that we need to be having. Minerals are so important that if you are deficient, it can actually cause disease. You don't think I'm serious? Think about anemia. Nothing apart from iron is going to correct this condition. But with minerals, overdosing can also be problematic. So please consider what I'm discussing today, but don't take it as a personal recommendation. Please consider having a consultation with either myself or another practitioner to determine dose and form and relevancy, or alternatively, consider testing to determine whether some of these minerals are necessary or not. But for a substance to be classified as a mineral, it must be essential for health. You need to obtain minerals through your diet or through supplementation, as your body cannot manufacture them yourself. Minerals are inorganic and they hold on to their chemical form when exposed to the elements, so things like heat and light and air. If you have my new book, From Invisible to Invincible, The Natural Menopause Revolution, this information is actually from page 58 to 83. So I'm not going to cover that many pages worth of content in one podcast episode. What I'm going to do instead is refer to my top favorite or the 5 most relevant minerals for the menopausal transition. And there's going to be no surprises at all what number 1 is if you've listened to my podcast before. If you haven't, welcome. Hello. I'm seeing new people from all over the place every week, which is fabulous. Welcome. But today, number 1, drum roll, is magnesium. Of course, it's magnesium. If you've ever had an eye twitch, a headache, constipation, leg cramp, if you felt anxious or depressed or even stressed, these all could be signs of a magnesium deficiency. So magnesium is an essential mineral cofactor in more than 300 enzymatic reactions. It's most known for its role with muscular contraction. And if you think about the most important muscle in your body, it's actually your heart. So it's an extremely important nutrient for heart health. It is needed for normal blood pressure and heart rhythm. It can reduce palpitations and angina. It's also important for nerve impulse conduction. It can help regulate blood sugar levels, so diabetics have a higher demand for magnesium than non-diabetics. Magnesium is required for energy production. So for all of you women out there feeling a little bit fatigued, it could be magnesium. It contributes to the structural development of bones. I know a lot of you think bones, shouldn't we be talking calcium? No, calcium doesn't even make it on my top 5 list. I bet you that surprises a few people. There's actually emerging evidence that looks at magnesium being more important than calcium for bone development and bone health. It's also needed for new cell production due to its role in DNA and RNA replication. It is an important cofactor in the utilization of glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant, which we need for healthy aging. And it's also essential for healthy, happy moods. It can reduce the stress response and improve low moods such as anxiety and depression. It is also beneficial for pain management. So, magnesium, number one, and it's probably the easiest supplement to try. You can have an Epsom salt bath and get magnesium in through the skin. There's magnesium sprays and creams and powders and pills and oils. There's so many different ways. But remember what I said in the past, that it is better to get your dose and your form, because there's multiple forms of magnesium as well, from a practitioner. But we're going to move on to number two. And number two is zinc. So zinc is something that I'm seeing more and more often these days as I'm seeing more and more vegetarian and vegans. With this current trend, if you're not eating properly, zinc is one of the first nutrients that you'll be deficient in, as it's primarily in animal products. So zinc is involved in over 100 different processes in the body. It's a key building block in your immunity. It improves hormonal balance by encouraging the production of progesterone. It is a key building block for healthy skin and wound healing. It is needed for DNA replication and the development of new cells. It's needed for the maintenance of healthy bones. It is absolutely essential in the role of taste and the role of smell. It also has a role to play with vision, and zinc has been known to delay the progression of macular degeneration and other age-related vision loss. But we can't talk about zinc without talking about copper, as copper and zinc work in opposition to each other. And what I'm currently seeing quite a lot of, unfortunately, in clinic is low zinc and high copper. When the ratio is this way around, it contributes to estrogen dominance, and estrogen dominance enhances the growth of reproductive tissues. So for all the women out there who have things like fibroids or polyps, cysts, make sure you go and get a blood test to have a look at your serum zinc and your serum copper and work out your copper to zinc ratio. Elevated copper and low zinc is also related to depression, anxiety, memory issues, could be linked with the development of diabetes, and is also a possible cause of central nervous system issues like multiple sclerosis. Moving on, mineral number 3 is iron. And this really depends where you are in your menopausal journey. If you're at the start, if you're in the perimenopausal phase, you're more likely to be deficient. If you're in the postmenopausal phase, you could be looking at an iron overload. As a menstruating woman, we lose iron every month. When we stop menstruating, iron can start to store and we can have iron toxicity. So I always love doing a blood test just so I could see where the woman's at. Does she have enough iron to get her through perimenopause? Because a lot of women in perimenopause have really heavy periods, might be having frequent periods. They're losing more blood than they would have been prior. And then you get to menopause when you stop. So it's that nice balancing act. We need enough iron for now, but not too much so that we start overloading for later. Because you can imagine once you stop menstruating, you then start to retain your iron and you can move into a toxicity iron overload. And the signs and symptoms are quite similar either way. So with deficiency, you might be pale in colour, you might be quite fatigued, you could be having muscle cramps, maybe you're even experiencing dizziness or rapid heartbeat, you might be having headaches, feeling short of breath, issues sleeping, concentration problems. Where with iron toxicity, you're also looking at fatigue. You're also looking at issues with your heartbeat, potential depression and cognition issues. But with toxicity, there's quite often liver issues. We can start to see raised liver enzymes. There could also be potential blood sugar issues, joint pain, abdominal pain. But it's pretty easy to get an iron test and just get that sorted out. But whenever you do an iron test, you should also do a ferritin test, because ferritin is looking at the amount of stored iron that you have. So the key roles for iron is as a building block of hemoglobin, and it's hemoglobin's job to transport oxygen from the lungs to the tissues. So it's how we oxygenate our body. And oxygenated tissues produce energy. So it's really fundamental for energy production. But it's also responsible for normal cellular function, things like growth, development, and repair. So it's really important that you get that balance right. Mineral number 4 is iodine. And some of you out there might not have heard of iodine before. It's not one of the most popular minerals out there. I really see it having 3 key functions. And all of these functions can relate to menopause. The first being thyroid. It is a key building block for thyroid hormone. And prior to menopause, 1 in 6 women have issues with their thyroid. And at the other end of the menopausal transition, it's 1 in 3 women have a thyroid disease. So it doubles during this time. So iodine is actually really important to help with the stabilization of your thyroid. But there's a big precaution in here, a big caution, and potentially a contraindication for you, and that is never self-prescribe iodine if you have thyroid antibodies. So if you have an autoimmune condition, things like Graves' disease or Hashimoto's, don't play around with iodine. That should only be prescribed under a supervising practitioner. So someone to make sure you've definitely got the right dose. Otherwise, you could cause more problems than it's worth. But if you don't have any thyroid dysfunction, don't have any autoimmune dysfunction, then iodine is definitely a fabulous one to take for your thyroid health. The next one is breast health. I know so many women are worried about their breasts these days. And in particular, if you're prone to breast pain, but also fibrocystic breast disease or lumpy breasts, iodine has been shown to reduce cysts and to reduce pain and may even be protective against breast cancer. So that's a very good reason to take it. And the third use is for concentration and cognition or mental acuity. I know that's something a lot of women at this stage of life want. And last but not least is selenium. Now, we have a problem in Australia, and that is our soils are very deficient in selenium. So you'll find a lot of our population is too. But I also want to let you know that there are other parts of the world that also have big issues with lack of selenium in their soils. So it is something that quite often needs supplementing. Selenium really is essential for a thyroid hormone metabolism. It's needed for glutathione production. And remember, we spoke about glutathione being the master antioxidant. It provides cellular protection against oxidative damage. So think of it as something that's going to help you age gracefully. It has a major role to play in detoxification. And it is very helpful in starting to remove things like mercury, arsenic, lead, cadmium, all those toxic metals. It has a role to play with regulating the immune system. It has been shown in some cases to be protective against cancer and may also improve outcomes for people living with HIV due to its immune regulation response. Selenium protects against chromosomal damage by stimulating DNA repair. It's an important nutrient for cardiovascular disease, and it may play a role in reducing the development of cataracts and reducing premature aging in general. Selenium is also needed to help with maintenance of cognition into later life. Who doesn't want that? Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today and listened to me drum on about my personal 5 favorite minerals in menopause. And I wanted to let you know that these minerals are covered in a lot more detail in the book, but the book also covers these missing minerals: calcium, chromium, manganese, molybdenum, potassium, silica, and sodium. So that's it from me today. But before I go, I wanted to quickly thank Kaz G from Australia. She has reviewed my podcast and has called it enlightening. I stumbled across his podcast when searching for information on menopause, and I am so thankful I found it. It has helped me understand what is going on with my body and how I can use simple techniques, health practices, and naturally supplement my diet to treat the common symptoms of perimenopause. I thought I was going crazy, and now I'm being a little kinder to myself during this transitional phase of my life. Thank you, Jennifer Harrington. Well, thank you, Kaz, and I'm glad to hear you being a little bit kinder to yourself. And I actually would love for you to reach out and let me know what things you try and how you go. If anyone else would like to review the podcast, I would be extremely grateful. Put a lot of thought and effort into the podcast, and it always makes my day when I hear how much it helps all of you women out there. And it's also a reminder that I'm still offering $100 off personalized consultation during self-isolation. So that won't last forever, guys. So if you are interested in having a chat with me, now really is the perfect time before the price goes back up. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I can't wait to connect with you again. Bye for now. For listening to Menopause Natural Solution. This podcast contains general information about menopause. It is provided as a guide and is not intended to replace medical advice. Opinions of guests of their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests.